Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the MindShare podcast. This show is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals. REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. And the ORCF, the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, enabling and empowering realtors across Ontario to fundraise in support of shelter-related causes in the communities in which they live and work. You can learn more about all of our sponsors by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. Now, while you're there, be sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare to get more market share. Plus, learn more about our one-to-one coaching and keynote speaking. Now, just before we get into today's show, I'd like to ask you for your support. On September 12th, I will be joining an awesome group of people at the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation, along with realtors from across the province on the motorcycle ride for charity. We're riding in support of shelter-related causes in our communities in which we live and work. And as we all know, shelter continues to be an ongoing challenge for so many people out there. Now, as soon as I heard about the why this ride was in place, I needed to get involved and be part of it. And this year will mark my second year on the ride. And of course, I'm working to raise as much awareness and money as we can over these coming weeks. The ORCF does a lot of fantastic work organizing events to raise money and awareness. And they as well support many of our realtors who host their own events. So together, our industry can continue to give back. I'd like to ask you to go over to www.realtorscareontario.ca, click on Pledge a Rider, find, of course, my name, and make a donation, big or small. Any support you can provide will certainly go a long way. I sincerely thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 296. At a very young age, her passion for real estate was ignited. She was always drawn to the concept of home ownership and enjoyed honing in on the nuances and characteristics of what makes a property unique. She even stuck into a few open houses as a child. Over the years, this passion has evolved into a powerful sense of intuition that has served her clients well. She has a talent for spotting sound investment opportunities and a strong understanding of what will positively impact resale and what will not. Her extended reach on social media and viral content is a result of a following who enjoys listening to her insights and market trend opinions. Her honest, tell it like it is commentary is refreshing and always ahead of the trend. And she was named in a 2023 article titled 11 Women New to Real Estate Who Are Doing Big Things. Joining me on this episode of the MindShare podcast is Realtor Anya Ettinger. Anya, welcome to the MindShare podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now you just got back from a little nice little vacation.
I did, yeah.
Was the weather better there or here?
Here it was
really
oh yeah. It is very, very hot. In Serbia and Montenegro, it's like 40 degrees without any humidex, and the sun is very spicy.
Gotcha. Well, we've got some humidex here too, but we've had some good weather. It's been nice. It's been a nice summer so far, and I can't believe we're like already into pretty much the middle of August.
Yep. Well, pretty much tomorrow.
Wow. So tell me, how long you been in real estate?
I got my license 4 years ago in June, and prior to that, I was working in different areas of real estate for probably 4 years.
Okay, got it. Like what kind of areas?
I did an internship with a commercial real estate investment trust. I did an internship with a real estate lawyer, and I worked with some realtors to help with marketing strategies and admin work. So I was around it for 4 years, and then
so it's been like 8 years in the industry now, more or less. Got it.
Pretty
cool.
Much.
So you got in. What was the first thing that you did to actually get your first deal?
So I was fortunate in that I had a family member who had the need to sell an investment property at the time, but this was 4 years ago, was just the beginning of the pandemic. So it was very interesting navigating my first sale as not only a sale in the midst of the first wave of the pandemic, but also a fully tenanted house and dealing with, accompanying everyone to showings, making sure everyone had masks and was being very safe. So that was the first one. And then I was able to spin off a couple of deals just from sign calls. And from that, I kind of hit a plateau. And, I was very young when I got my license. And so finding business through my own network was very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to kind of get creative in where I was going to find business and how I was going to generate it. So probably 6 months after I got my license, I committed to, using social media as a tool to market myself. And that is what brought us here today.
Cool. Yeah, I want to dive into that more. It's funny. I think back and I look at a lot of the realtors who really kicked ass when the pandemic started and sort of like where the market went and um, how kind of easier it was to do a deal because there were so many people buying properties at the time.
Yeah,
And I've always looked and said, like, now people actually have to work their butts off to get that deal, and, like, it's a totally different landscape than it was then. But then for what you
for
just bring
sure.
up around, like, you got in your first deal and you're like, here you are, like, navigating, actually showing properties and, like, people wearing masks and cleanliness. I guess totally opposite. It's almost like as if, like, right now probably a heck of a lot easier.
Yes and no. There were a lot of challenges with COVID, but also because that was the only thing that I knew, I didn't have the same struggle as someone who perhaps got licensed just before the pandemic.
Right.
I mean, again, it was not as difficult for me because I started working with buyers more so than sellers. And so I had a couple of really fortunate buyers that purchased just before the condo market really picked up again in 2021 and got in when it was really low in 2020. But yeah, it was a very confusing experience to navigate. And I know a lot of people that get into real estate have family or friends that are in real estate and they have, someone to guide them, but I didn't know anyone, had no guidance, and really was just figuring everything out myself. So that was probably the biggest challenge.
So, okay, so what do you know now that you wish you had known when you first started?
So much.
I
So
guess it's a
much.
loaded one, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I got a lot of advice that I now would look back and think was perhaps not the best advice. I had someone tell me very early on, don't do leases. They're a waste of time. They're a waste of, energy. But now I've learned that leases are a great way for you to get familiar with condo buildings and get familiar with what to look for in houses. And, it's not a buyer, but it's still something. And a
Mhm.
lot of leases will turn into referrals for buyers or sellers, or they will turn into buyers and sellers themselves. So I think that for new agents who are perhaps not starting on a team and are starting on their own, there's no reason to avoid leases because they really do help you get familiar with paperwork, get familiar with writing offers, get familiar with talking to people, talking to agents, and just helps you learn the industry in general and kind of helps prop you up for when you do get to the point of buying and selling.
Okay, so then based on where you are today, would you still say that even today you still like to focus on those leases? Or do you think now being slightly more established 4 or 5 years in, now it's like, okay, I don't need to focus as much time and effort on them just because maybe they're not as big ticket? Or do you still look at it like, hey, there's an opportunity?
I think there's always an opportunity, but I think
Cool.
that when you become busier, there's also, an understanding of prioritizing your time and understanding, where your balance is. So when I'm really busy, I might not have the capacity to take on leases, and I'm not necessarily actively looking for leasing clients, but if someone reaches out to me and it's a referral or even just someone reaches out, I do always try to at least connect them with a colleague who might be able to help if I don't have the capacity.
Yeah, okay, makes sense, makes sense. So, we talk about getting busy.
Yep.
Um, what does your prospecting look like on a daily basis? Like, what are you doing specifically to get out there and meet new people, whether they're sellers, buyers, leases, whatever? What are you up to? What
So
does a day
my
look like?
Well, if we were talking like when I was really peak
Okay.
prospecting, a
Yeah.
day looked like I was just all over social media. And my prospecting system is very different than I think the average agents, because my prospects often come to me either warm or hot. Like they've seen me, they have listened to what I have to say, they are comfortable with my personality, and they come to me and they're like, I want to work with you. This is what I want. This is my timeline. So there's a lot less conversion required on my part because I essentially do the conversion ahead of time with the content that I put out. And that way people already have a sense of who I am, and there's less needing to sell myself when I actually contact that lead. Um, but I've also found now, hoping to diversify, since there are so many people on social media and you do eventually run out of ideas for content, I'm just trying to get out there and meet new people. I joined a rec soccer league at the beginning of the summer. Just finding any ways to kind of meet new people, make connections. I'm not the most extroverted person, and I would prefer to be at home and watch TV or do a puzzle and hang out with my dogs than go out and go to a bar or go to some sort of a social meetup and network. So it is really a lot of effort for me to actually get out there and meet new people face to face. So that's something that I'm working on now.
Cool. Okay. So first, I love the fact that you've gotten involved in extracurriculars. Something I suggest to anybody.
Mhm.
Always get out there. It just puts you in a place where you feel comfortable. You're in your element of just having fun, and it
Yeah.
just opens up the opportunity to connect with others. But I want to go backwards for a moment because you said something there, and I'd love to clarify what it means. Now we can all have our own interpretations of it. But I think that there's definitely people listening going, well, hold on, what does that mean? Like maybe I could do that. And you said there was a time where you would is basically spend your days all over social media.
Mhm. Yeah.
What
So
does that mean?
I
Like, just tell me more, like the actions, you know what I mean? Because I think there's a lot of people like you and I may understand, like connect, do this and do that. But like, what specific actions were you taking when when you were doing that?
Yeah, so it's funny because a lot of people will assume that because my a lot of my business comes from social media, that I sit on TikTok and Instagram and I just scroll all day, but I actually spend very little time on the apps. I would prefer to be doing a crossword. Um, the time I would spend on social media, so when I first really got into it, and the beginning is the hardest, and that's when you really have to put in the most effort because you have to grow from nothing.
Hmm.
So I was posting 2 to 3 videos every day. Then I would be batch filming content for hours, coming up with ideas, researching what are topics I should talk about. But that's not where it ends. You can't just post and forget about it. You need to be actively running and managing your comments. So seeing a comment and replying, engaging in a conversation. It's not just as simple as posting and forgetting about it. And I would do live streams on TikTok and managing again the comments that were coming in. And that's how I got a lot of business in the beginning, because people would comment and be like, what are your thoughts on this building? Or what do you think I can buy for 600,000 in Liberty Village? And so those conversations, those comments would turn into a conversation. And I would send them a message after the live stream and be like, hey, I saw your comment about buying a condo in Liberty Village. Is this something that is, you know, something that you're planning on doing in the near future? And they would be like, yeah, I'm thinking of buying in 2 months. When I'm done my probationary period at work, would you be able to help me? So it was really, really important for me to be engaging and actively, trying to enter into conversations with the people that were following me or the people that were watching me. And I can't even count how many deals came from simply responding to comments and sending messages to people who put out a comment that seemed like it could lead to something.
I am so with you when you say I do not like spending a lot of time on these social media platforms. I as well, we have a lot of content that goes out on a regular basis, and I am incredibly structured with my days as to when I actually tap into social and when I don't.
Mhm.
Just to keep it under control, because otherwise you can be on it all day and God knows, yeah, just sit there and scroll.
Yeah.
Realistically speaking, though, to be more strategic about it, it's what time of the day do we go in there? How much time do we spend, and what actions do we take?
Yeah.
And I too have found that when you do engage with the audience that's there, have those conversations, respond to those comments, even do some DMs with people. You start to get into some, there can be some pretty wacky conversations, but like you could also start to get into like some good constructive conversations, right?
Yep.
So action step then would be when we say, it's been a lot of time on social. A big action step to that would be one, there was posting content, and I want to get into the breakdown of all that in a moment here. But
Mhm.
posting the content. The other was actually spending time, not just stalking and scrolling other people, but actually going into like your DMs and your comments and going, okay, who can I reply to?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, cool. Cool. Now, outside of social media and video, are there any other marketing channels that you really leverage to get out there and build the mind share?
Um, Not a whole lot.
Okay.
I mean, outside of my own sphere at this point, now I'm 4 years in, I do have a lot of clients that I am actively engaging with and following up with, and I try to make a point of seeing everyone at least once a year in person who I've worked with in the past and just keeping in touch, checking in, making sure that they know that I'm always around if they need anything, if they have questions, if they have friends that need help. So there is still a good portion of it that comes from tapping into the sphere and also trying to get repeat and referrals. I'd say now too, as the social media, as my platform has grown, I've started being approached to do more traditional media. So I've been on Global several times. Um, I just did a piece with The Guardian. So now that's also added into the mix of making
Nice.
sure I'm keeping in touch with the traditional media streams and just making sure I'm always out there and people aren't forgetting who I am. But I'm not huge on other avenues like cold calling, door knocking. That's not necessarily the way that I went down. I did in the beginning. I tried everything, but once I kind of found the social media niche, I focused all of my energy on that because that was what was yielding the best results.
Cool. Okay, so social's the big mainstay.
Oh yeah.
Cold call and door knocking aren't a thing, but what about like the warm calls? Like, do you get on the phone a lot, or is it a lot more like text message with people?
It's a lot more texting,
Okay.
which I don't love, but
Okay.
I also
Why? Why?
recognize.
Why?
Why don't I love the texting?
Yeah.
I I don't love it from the perspective of I know a phone call is a lot more personal,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I much prefer texting, mostly because I have taken a very strong stance since I got my license that I will never do something that I would not like to be on the receiving end of. And that's why I really struggled with door knocking and cold calling because if someone knocks on my door, I will hide. I don't want to talk to you. I don't My dogs are going to bark. I don't want to deal with it. When I'm at home, I just want to be at home. And so I kind of felt that, I don't want to make people feel the same way I do when someone shows up at my door. And that's not to say door knocking is bad. It's just not for me.
Fair.
And
Fair.
that's kind of where the texting comes in is I would prefer to receive a text first because I might not be in the mood for a call and I am a lot of people in my generation hate phone calls. There's like a thing about millennials not ever wanting to be on the phone. So I recognize that my target demographic might prefer texting over phone calls. And
Gotcha.
so normally it'll be like, hey, it's been a long time since I've seen you. Are you free to grab some coffee or some lunch soon? And that way we still do get the face to face and the more personal connection. But I don't necessarily start with a cold phone call.
Gotcha. See, it's funny when it comes to the door knock. Like, first, I know for a fact, and this is like 2 decades in this industry, it works.
Yeah.
But I also know a lot of people don't like doing it. Personally, for
Yep.
me, I get excited when somebody knocks on my door, and only because of like it's me, and most times it's going to be a realtor on the other side of it. So there's just the perfect opportunity to see, okay, so what you're up to? What's your spiel over here? Let's see if you can convert me right now. So I have
Yeah.
a lot of fun with people at the door when they do that, but I can totally understand where you're coming from. So,
Well,
so
it
yeah,
definitely came. I mean, I've got 2 dogs and they bark at the door,
for
and
sure.
once someone rings my doorbell, it's chaos for at least 5 minutes, and so I don't like it. And my neighborhood, I get very few realtors. It's primarily canvassers, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't.
totally, totally. Fair enough. Fair enough. So texting is a thing.
Yep.
Social's a thing.
Yeah, and social is actually very powerful, and it's a lot more
Oh
powerful
yeah.
than people think.
Yep.
So when we talk about not taking much time scrolling, I actually do like to watch stories on Instagram because I have a lot of my clients find me on socials. So I have them on socials and it helps kind of keep you in touch with what they're doing. So maybe they post an engagement announcement or they're pregnant or, there's a big life change. They just got a dog. So it's really nice to keep up with what they're doing on social media because it gives you a point of conversation. I remember maybe this was 2 years ago now. One of my clients had posted that she got a huge promotion at work. So I took that as an opportunity to send her flowers and I gave her a phone call and I said, "Hey, congratulations. I'm so happy for you," and sent her flowers. And it was something that she didn't expect, but because I was kind of keeping tabs on what she was doing, it gave me an opportunity to reach out for something more than just, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, do you still like the condo you live in?"
Totally. No, listen, I got to tell you, I think stories for me are probably the best social media hack there is. And I say that to
Oh
people
yeah.
because to what you just said, like it's real, it's live, like it's in the moment. Like this is actually happening. If I'm like taking a picture up at the cottage or something, like sometime within that 24-hour window, that's what I was doing. So it gives you a lot of like the behind the scenes real rawness to people.
Yep.
The other thing to it that you obviously understand, I fully understand, is that the more active you are with your stories, the more consistent you are to keep them quote unquote alive, as opposed to like not having something posted, the higher the chances that every time I open up my Instagram, you're sitting there right at the top of my feed
Yep.
for free. Talk about
Mhm.
building mindshare, right? So I encourage everybody, my coaching clients specifically, obviously get something up there, sort of 3 to 5 different posts within a 24-hour window, just so that you're not constantly having to, like, post, but also so that it never actually dies, and now you'll always
Yep.
really show up at the top of people's feeds,
Yep.
you
And
know,
I
and
also find for me, based on the way that I've structured myself, I
Mhm.
know you talked in my bio about how there's a lot of transparency and it's really you get what you see with me. So I used to use a separate Instagram account for personal posts, but now I've kind of blended everything into the account that I use for my business because the same way I want to know what's going on in my client's life, they want to know what's going on with mine. They want to, I was just in Montenegro and one of my clients messaged me and she was like, "I'm also in Montenegro."
Oh, no way.
And yeah, and it sparked a conversation. And so I think that giving them the opportunity to see into my life and see me as a person outside of a professional really kind of helps build stronger and deeper relationships than when it's very surface level and transactional. Like, you're my client, I'm your agent. This way, it's I'm a person and you're also a person, and you know my dog's names, and you know that I'm on vacation, or you know that, so and so is happening in my life. So I do think that it makes you a lot more personable and it makes people feel more comfortable reaching out to you.
It's a great point. I'm very much the exact same way with Instagram. Like, what you see is what you get. The guy on the
Mhm.
podcast, the guy on the stage, the guy riding his Harley, like, sitting at the campfire having a beer, like, it's who I am, and by sharing that, I've said this often, but I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I don't really like tea. So it's like one of those where it's kind of like the people that will your vibe attracts your tribe, right?
Well,
And
exactly.
that's the thing right there. So I love what you're saying about that one account, be very transparent. Now, the other thing I wanted to pick up on, and I just wanted to reiterate this to everybody listening. Love the fact that you'll go and, let's say, for example, send the flowers to somebody based on something you saw on social. And, everybody tuned in. This is the premise of going, online to go offline. So I really love that you're doing that because it's like I'm on there. It's totally passive. You almost won't know that I'm on there. Then I recognize them. I see what you're up to, and because we got that connection, maybe I know where you live, or I know your phone number, whatever. You could back that up with something physical. Now you're bringing the
Yeah.
whole thing, like the relationship just goes to an even deeper level.
Yeah.
Nice job
Yeah.
with that.
And yeah, and then you try to build traditions. I have some clients where, I have clients with 2 kids, and every year around Christmas time, I drop by with just some small presents for the kids, and that's become the tradition. They see me every year around the holidays. I have some that I see every time around their birthday. So it becomes really nice because you do get to build longer term relationships through something as small as sending someone flowers or giving them a call.
It goes a long way.
Yeah.
It really does. So, look, my team had learned about you through your video content
Mhm.
specifically. Um, Nice job, by the way. I know I sort of said that off the top, and it's what I really like about it is that it doesn't seem like you've gone over the top. And uh, to you and to anybody listening, that is not a knock on it. In fact, totally different. It's very simple and it's very real. I really like that because it's just a real connection with a real person as opposed to like, all this fancy stuff, which sometimes can get anybody thinking, oh, I probably couldn't reach that person, or they're too big for me or too important for me, or I'm not important at whatever.
Mhm.
The stuff is great. And you've even had a few videos go like majorly viral.
I have,
So
yes.
congrats. It's pretty cool, right? Like, but I want to talk more about that, about like how to leverage video to do big things in real estate. Because you're doing it. And when I look at it, I mean, I'll take a stab at it and say you've got like a phone on a tripod and it's you. You might say to me, Dave, I got 3 people in front of me behind the camera, lights, microphones, action, and all that stuff. I'm going, I don't know if I'd believe it. And again, it's not a knock on the video production. It's moreover like it really seems real, and you seem personable. You seem like I'm looking for the word, like I can actually connect with you. Like if I sent you a message, you would reply. Like it seems real. And I think that that's awesome. So a big
I don't
congrats on
even
just what
I
you've
don't
done.
even use a tripod.
So yeah, people have asked me that. They're like, Dave, should I get like a gimbal or a what? I'm like, dude, it's my right arm, and sometimes it's my
I
left
have
arm.
I have a gimbal, I have a tripod, I never use any of them. I have a
It's
selfie
so
light, I
funny.
don't use any of it.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna ask you then. The little igloo video with the snow.
I didn't film that one.
Okay,
That was
I was like, okay.
the igloo video was actually very funny. So a person that deserves a lot of credit with my success on social media is my partner. He told me right off the bat when COVID started, he's like, "You got to get on this TikTok thing." I was like, "That's
Nice.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard." He was like, "No, I'm serious. Like, you've really got to do it." And I was like, "No, you're watching kids dancing. Like, I'm not going to do that."
Yeah.
And when I got to the point of, I had done those deals that I had, I guess we can call it low hanging fruit that were there. And I had a couple more, but it didn't feel sustainable. And I had also, which I didn't mention, purchased a house not even 6 months into having my license. So not only that, but I just spent a bunch of money, have a big monthly revolving expense. And I was like, okay, well, I have to do something. So I looked at him and I said, if you think I need to do this, you're helping me. And he helped me come up with ideas, and he doesn't work in marketing or anything, but
Yeah.
it was the pandemic, he wasn't really working, so he helped me out and he was helping me come up with ideas, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling. But that day, I think it was like January 16th or 17th of 2021.
That's my birthday,
There
the 17th.
Oh, happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, not now,
or
but
was it
like,
2020? Happy,
listen,
6
my
months
birthday's January
later.
15th every year.
Was it 2021 or 2022? I think it may have been 2022. Yes. And the market was exploding
Yeah.
and everything was crazy and everyone was sick of it. That was the messaging I was getting on social media. People were sick of it. They were like, "What is going on? I don't want to keep chasing prices up." And there was this massive dump of a snowfall, and I know because I had a listing close that day and my clients could not get their moving truck out of the driveway. So we had this massive dump of snow, and my partner Brandon goes, "We should build a snow fort and you should pretend to sell it." I was like, "Great idea." And
Just
so
like
we
that,
built
eh?
Yeah, and we built one, and the funniest part was that my next door neighbor's kid, who I think was 6 or 7 at the time, saw the video and was so upset because she was like, "Oh my god, is she actually gonna sell the snow fort we built?"
Oh my god, that is so cute.
Yeah, it was really sweet, and I was
That
like,
is
"No,
funny,
it's
eh?
it's gonna melt." But yeah, so that was the one that really kinda got me on the map,
Was
and
that the
although it
one,
was
really? Okay,
that
cool.
was the first big
Yeah.
one, that was the first over 1,000,000 view video, and that one just I mean, I was everywhere. I was on BlogTO, I was on Narcity, like, everyone knew me, people my partner's from Winnipeg, I was on the Winnipeg version of SixBuzz, I was everywhere,
So
and
cool.
I was getting stopped. People were like, "Where like, are you the Snow Fort girl?" I was wearing an Aritzia Super Puff, and I have friends who work at Aritzia and said people literally came into the store showing them the video and said, "I want this jacket."
Oh my
It
god.
was it was everywhere.
That is
And
so cool.
that was the first one. So that I think pushed me to like maybe 10,000 followers. But yeah, that was the first.
Okay,
And yeah,
so how many videos? I think you said this before, but just how many videos are you posting a day, a week?
now not very many, and
Okay,
I don't like it, and I'm working on it.
okay,
But I had a bit of a, I guess, creative slump, and I was having a hard time coming up with content. And I was also quite busy with, I was running all over. This fall was very, very busy for me business wise. So I just didn't have time. And the downside of that, which I think anyone who tries to go down this avenue needs to know, is if you stop prioritizing filming content, the pipeline will dry out, because the whole point is that you post content, you generate new business, and it continues. And when, I learned this maybe a year into doing social media, when I got so busy that I wasn't posting consistently, I stopped getting a lot of leads. So it is something I'm working on. But I would say realistically, 3 to 5 times a week is where I'm hoping to land once I'm kind of back into it. The first year and year and a half, I was posting at least 2 videos a day.
hmm
And the following 2 years would be usually 1 video a day. I'd aim for 5 to 7 a week.
okay. So let's talk for a second here about how you come up with the content for your videos. And I heard what you just said clearly. You've fallen off because it was about coming up with content, being
Mhm.
busy, and I get it completely because I'm on that same page. Being busy takes the mind away almost from the creativity. But I guess when we take the busyness out of the way for a moment and just go, how do you come up with content for your videos? Where do you get ideas from? What is it? Is this like the late night, like you're closing your eyes in bed and also like bang, or like you're in the shower and you got nowhere to write it down, or like somebody, your partner says something? Is it a mix of everything? Like, because I think there's a lot of people there that are going, I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to say. Like I don't know how many people would have thought of, let's go sell,
A
a pile of
snowboard.
snow. You know what I'm saying? Like so like where's
Yeah.
it coming from outside of the fact that your partner gave you that particular idea?
Um, I would say in the last probably 2 years, the bulk of the content is coming from a combination of things I am seeing or hearing, whether it's from clients or colleagues or people I'm talking to, seeing things on MLS, watching trends. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect is following the news and following what the general public is talking about. What
Smart.
are the pain points that we are seeing in the market? And that's, I think, why myself and also a lot of people that I've spoken to are struggling with content now, because when the market was crazy, there was lots to talk about and there were lots of hot topics. Everyone wanted to know how to buy a house. Everyone wanted to know. So at the beginning, it was all tips. What's the minimum down payment? What is a mortgage? Like very, very basic stuff. Whereas now I found the social media needs and what people are really looking for are more dynamic stories. What problem happened? How was it solved? How did this problem happen? And so that is really where I'm seeing
The
people.
fireplace.
The fireplace.
See, I
That
was
was
watching.
that
I
was a
was
good one.
watching. I was
That was
watching.
a good one.
But you know what though? What I liked about that actually reminded me very much about my videos, like especially when I first started. And as you go through this evolution of creating, you start to find like what are the messages I want to share and what kind of stories do I want to tell and what did work, what didn't work. And you think something was good, and then you do it a bunch of times. You're like, okay, I got to switch this. But one of the things I would do often, I think I still do sometimes, but is tell stories about actual real interactions.
Yep.
And like I remember having one that it was like one day it was like, this is what she said. And it was one of those like, that's what she said kind of things. But like I played it and it was a real story with somebody. And it was almost like you had this thing at the end where you're like, oh my God, like I can't believe that. Right. But then you give an action step of like what to do in that situation. And like those stories were wicked. They just really resonate. And I think they take a lot of they take our audience, whoever your audience is, they take the audience, and they almost put them in the shoes there for a moment. They go, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Or that's a great idea.
And I think that's why those are so much more successful
Totally.
nowadays than just your regular how-to video. But it is really important, if you are using video for your business, that you're following up with what is working and what's not. And over the years, we went from, on TikTok, there would be those like trends where you would follow lip sync to a sound. And then it evolved to telling stories or long form. So it's, for me, it's always tracking what is performing well and what is engaging the audience. And if I were to post a video now and be like, what's the minimum down payment? No one would care because everyone knows already. Because real estate was the hot topic 2 years ago. Everyone learned all of the basic how-tos. Now they want to know, where are people struggling? Why are they struggling? And how are we fixing it?
So how much time, once you kind of find what you want to do, like how much time does it take to figure out what you want to talk about? So you've sort of come up with like a content idea, and
Mhm.
now it's about wrapping that into technically a video, a message. Does that just happen for you off like once somebody hits record, or like, yeah, you're like me. Okay.
I'm terrible with written word. I
Yeah.
can't write. I can't copyright. I hate writing MLS listing descriptions. Worst possible thing I could do. I'm great at talking. I've
Yeah.
always been great at talking. Everyone that's known me since I was a kid says I never shut up. And so for me, once I have a topic, yeah, it's very easy for me to turn it into something engaging when I'm talking. And obviously there's a little bit of editing that goes into it, but I would say for the most part, I'm a one take and done. I don't want to spend any more time on it. I don't want to overthink it, because
Fair.
that then changes it from the, low production quality, low, this is literally like I got into my car. This is what I was thinking. Hit record, and now I'm done.
That's like right there, just like that. Boom.
Yeah,
Right?
and
Yeah.
my favorite place to film now is in my car.
It's quiet.
It's quiet, there's usually good sunlight, I can lean my elbow on my steering wheel so my arm doesn't
Mhm.
get tired, and it's where I can just take a couple minutes because, when I'm at home, there are dogs, they are
Yep.
barking, the lighting is inconsistent. If I'm at the office, there's not a great place for sound, so the car is just so great, and it's where a lot of people think. You're in your car, you're thinking about stuff, and maybe I left a showing and I needed to tell a story about something that just happened, so that's really where the car comes in,
And you're
and
also in like
also
a
it
private moment too, so it's like you can almost just
yeah,
express.
yeah, and it's also, I mean, in reality, where realtors spend the majority of their time.
For sure. So from a production perspective then, like walking us through, so you've come up with an idea, maybe it's from like a real-time experience or something
Mhm,
that you found that is newsworthy slash trendy in terms of what people are looking for. The idea is there.
mhm.
There's not a lot of scripting that goes into it. You just kind of get a sense of what you want to talk about.
I do
From
no
a
scripting.
Okay, from a time perspective, and I'm talking like how long you want the video to be, because naturally understanding the platforms, there's going to be like, I can't just do this for 7 minutes because I just want to talk. There's got to be a certain time. What are you working through? 60 seconds, 90 seconds? Is there a,
So I found that at least this was like say a year ago,
okay,
TikTok really started, because TikTok is really primarily where I'm posting, and then I'll
okay,
repost on Instagram, but
okay.
TikTok is kind of where it's all at for me. And I found that they were really trying to promote longer form content. So anything over 2 minutes, they were really pushing heavily, which is great because telling a story in less than 60 seconds is very hard. And
Yeah, for real.
the fireplace video that you mentioned had,
Yep.
I want to say 2.5, maybe 3 million views.
Something like that.
And
Yep.
that video was almost 5 minutes long, but it doesn't feel that
I
way.
watched that thing for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, nice job.
Yeah. And that video was everywhere. And it doesn't feel like 5 minutes because it's a really crazy story. And you get into it and you're like, I need to hear how this ended. So the timing really is less about, it's more about giving as much information and engaging information as you can in whatever time frame you need. Like, no one wants to listen to you ramble for 5 minutes, but if you're telling a story that's super funny for
Fair.
5 straight minutes, people are going to watch it.
Okay, so you walk out, you got this idea, let's say fireplace or snow fort or whatever.
Yep.
Technically, we'll just assume step into the car and like hit record and just start going. Yeah?
Yep. Pretty
Okay.
much.
How much time would you say that process typically takes you? And we're talking a 60-second to a call it 5-minute video, idea pops up, we go sit down to record, we're done kind of thing. We've got a video that's Ready maybe for editing, and we'll talk to that in just a moment, but like the
Sure.
first portion.
For recording, I would say probably around 2 times the length of the video. So if the video is
Okay,
2 minutes, I need 4
fair.
minutes. If it's 5 minutes, I need 10 minutes. And that's mostly because, like many realtors, I've got hardcore ADHD and I cannot talk without losing my train of thought. And so I have to stop and start a lot. I'll say a sentence, I stop, regroup, continue, because otherwise I forget what I'm talking about.
When you
Um,
say stop, is it hitting pause? Is it hitting stop? Is it just leaving the video recording?
no, I'll clip them. So I'll
Okay.
essentially like hold the record button and then I
Mhm.
let go
Okay.
when I need
Got it.
a second to think.
And then just press it again
And
and keep going.
pretty much. And
Cool.
yeah, I'd say usually about double the time of the video.
Okay. Now let's talk to editing. Okay. First off, is that all you? And
Yes.
then if yes, do you have all sorts of fancy stuff that you use? It's just a simple app that you use? You talked about being primarily TikTok. Do you record natively in TikTok?
I do, and for a while, I started not recording in TikTok, which was a nightmare for me clearing up my camera roll, so I went back to it, and especially now that TikTok has a function where you can save videos before you post them, it's made my life a lot easier. So I will primarily record my videos in TikTok, and TikTok has now integrated CapCut into their software. So I will film and edit in TikTok, and then I will save the video prior to posting so that I can repost it on Instagram.
When you do the repost to Instagram, do you remove the watermark from TikTok?
Well, that's the thing. If you save it before you post it, then there's no watermark.
Ah, because then you just download that particular file.
Exactly. And so that's why I've gone back to filming in TikTok because they've opened up that option.
Did you ever hear of, oh my god, there's an app. There's an app. I've been sharing it with people. I used it for some time. I will send it to you after. I'm trying to remember what, oh my god, I can't remember what
What
it
was
is
the
like.
purpose?
It just removes the watermark from TikTok. So, like,
Like
when you
Snap? They had
no,
so
there's
many
another
of
one, but, like, you
those.
would take the video, you'd basically save your video once it was posted, you'd download it, you then upload it to this other site that would then remove the watermark, and then you could take that file and actually post it up to Instagram, and therefore there's no TikTok logo.
I did that and I had some issues
Download.
just with the quality of the content. Like once you post it and then you go somewhere and then you a third party and you remove the watermark, it often will kind of muddle the quality of
Yeah,
the
I'm with you.
video
I'm
and
with you.
it
I'm
messes
with you.
with your audio. So what I actually
Fair.
started doing for a while was I would post them and then I would screen record the video and then I would crop it and then post it.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of what it was called. I'm gonna find it. But now you talked about the recording is normally about like sort of the production part of it is normally about double the amount of time as it would be for the actual
The length.
video. What
Yes,
about
to
the
save it in
editing?
10 minutes.
What about the editing part of it?
So I don't do a lot of editing. I
Oh,
really I really only clip the blank space before and after I speak so that it flows seamlessly instead of it being like sentence, pause. I'll kind of clip everything so it sounds very cohesive. Outside of that, I don't really do much.
okay,
I
fair
don't
enough.
find
So,
a need to. People, I just, I get messages all the time from people who are saying, "Oh, I'll edit your videos for you," and all the videos look the exact same. They've all got this like green and yellow and red text that pops up, and it's very overwhelming, and no one needs that. So,
I used to find that the TikTok editing platform was very cumbersome, because you used
mhm,
to have to watch the video go through every single time you wanted to make a quick edit, and I imagine that
mhm,
they fixed that up. But
I have, yeah.
in terms of videos and like the views and the followers and the likes, blah blah blah, like, do you focus in on that when it's coming to any of your stuff? Like, obviously, when you got something that's hitting 1 million views and above, it's gonna put a smile on your face. Like, it's cool. Like, it's that the thing hit, even if you're getting hundreds of thousands or even over thousands. I mean, for some people that'd be, it's great. Um,
Yeah.
but do you focus on it to drive you in any way, to keep you motivated? Does it matter to you? What if you get like no views? Do you just keep going?
No views definitely hurts a
Obviously,
little,
you
but
want them,
but I
but
still keep going.
right.
Um, I think the hardest part when I first started was that I didn't really I when I wasn't getting views, I felt like I was talking to no one. And once I built a platform, I felt like I was talking to someone, and it made filming the videos a lot easier. So it definitely is, it's not ideal if I don't get a lot of views now, but it's not as much the focus because I recognize that views aren't necessarily the driver. Like, the video, the snow fort video had like 2 million views, but no one, reached out to me to buy because of that, because I didn't provide any value. I was funny and I made a very valid point with it, but I didn't give anyone a reason to reach out. So
what would be
maybe
a
I get,
reason to reach out, Anya?
well, I mean, I, for instance, posted even just the fireplace video. That
Okay,
one was
fair. Done.
obviously huge.
Like it.
But fireplace video, for people who don't know what that is, was talking about how, my clients bought a house, and in the inclusions was an electric fireplace. It was listed on the listing. It was in the offer. It was in the agreement that was accepted. And then the sellers took it on. We go to our final buyer visit. It's not there. And I asked the agent, and she was like, well, it's not a fixture. I was like, well, it doesn't really matter because it was in the agreement.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, well, and it was this whole back and forth. And she told her clients to take it because it wasn't a fixture, but they offered it. And if they wanted to take it, like, we didn't need it. But the whole point was that it was in the listing and it was in the agreement. And those kinds of videos, those stories where, you talk about how you show up for your clients, are where people are like, I want to work with this person because I'm like, I'll tell a lot of stories where I literally will, like, I'm ready to scrap on behalf of my clients. I don't like injustice. Like, if someone does wrong, like, I'm always ready to throw hands. So, when it comes to something like that, I'm always going to be there to stand up for them. And even one more recently that I had a couple of people reach out to me over was where I talked about how I submitted an offer for my clients who were actually my friends from high school. And the agent was being so disrespectful and was telling me to try and push them over what they told me was their absolute ceiling for this property, and was telling me to do all sorts of things and to try and and I was like, no, I'm not. If this is the cap that they've given me, this is the cap. I'm not going to go back to them and say, you should pay more. I obviously will communicate what has been said and say they've asked for so-and-so, but I'm not going to push them. And that shows people that, I think a big fear that a lot of people have with realtors, given the reputation that the industry has gotten, is that they're going to work with someone and the agent is going to push them to spend more money because it means that they make more money. And seeing, situations like that where the realtor stands up for their client and where they actually want them to get something that works for them as opposed to pushing them to buy something that's more expensive, really resonates with people. And I've had several people reach out since then and be like, I was working with someone previously or last year or when I bought this, like when I bought my current property, that pushed me to spend more than I was comfortable with. And I really liked what you said, and I'd like to work with you.
So you've done some great stuff with video. You've kept it simple. You've had some great, topics, the value. I love what we were just talking about there, because I think that's important. We talk about, adding value. I like the fact that you are very transparent with the fact that, like, the snow fort didn't really do much because it didn't really give that. It was funny. It went viral, but it didn't really give that. Whereas when you do tell those stories and you do share real life experiences, people go, oh my God, I can see myself in those shoes. Look at her. She's awesome. So understanding the successes you've had with it and what it's done to help you grow your business, not just a following on social media, but actually monetize, and the fact that you've admitted that you have fallen off the consistency, what for you is going to be the key to getting back to where you were? How are you going to get back on there? And Anya, I ask you that specifically to you because you've been doing it. I also ask you that on behalf of all the people that are sitting there that have tried it and it didn't do much for them, want to get going. What is that thing that's going to get you to go, bang, I'm back? Or here's what I'm going to do next.
I think I really need to sit down and get like a good clump of ideas going.
Okay.
And then I can get back into it. It's once you fall off, you just lose the consistency. It becomes part of the routine. Every day I do this and that. Sorry, my computer has now
You're still here.
Gone off do not disturb. So I'm just going to put it back on. Yeah, once you lose the routine and the consistency, it's really hard to get back on. So I really just need to sit down and be like, listen, this is what I'm gonna do. And I was away, so I tried to take a break from my phone while I was gone.
Good.
But now that I'm back and have a little bit more time, I'm also um, going in for I'm having surgery at the beginning of September on my hip, which I've done before and I've shared with my following. And
Got it.
again, there's always the raw content with that, but
Yep.
I'm going to be couch bound. So I think that that's going to really be good for me, and that I can sit down and just like film a bunch of stuff and really get
Gotcha.
back into it. And
Are
then
you Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Finish that thought.
I was going to say, once you get on it, you just have to keep the ball rolling and really stay consistent. And then it makes it a lot easier not to fall back off.
Are you rigid with the calendar? Like, just in your day-to-day on a regular basis? Or are you kinda like one of those like, I kinda do what comes to me" priorities?
I am not rigid with the calendar in terms of when I do tasks. So
Okay.
I don't have like a Monday at 9 a.m. I do this, 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 and this. But I do have a rolling to-do list where I prioritize what needs to get done first.
Okay.
I do live in my calendar, in that if there is a phone call or anything that needs to be done, if it is not in my calendar, I will not remember. I will not. There is
Love that. Yeah, that's
0%
me.
chance I will
Yeah.
remember. I always mix dates up. I get very confused very often, and my partner makes fun of me for it because I have no clue what day of the week it is most of the time, because in real estate everything blends together. So I rely on my calendar to keep me in check with actual events, meetings, calls, things like that. And then I try and kind of plan out when I'm going to do what, and I'll mark it off, but I'm not super rigid with it.
Well, we're glad that you did today.
I did not
Hey,
forget.
to for those same people that are, okay, like, I'm listening to you, I'm learning from you right now, what tips or advice might you give people, about getting comfortable producing their own videos?
You're never going to be comfortable from the start. It comes with practice. If you go back, if you have the time to go back and scroll to the first videos I ever posted, I was whispering because I was so scared to speak that I would whisper. And it was so clear that I had no confidence and I was not comfortable behind the camera because it wasn't something I was used to. But with time and with seeing results, whether it was just a couple of comments or someone being like, "You're doing great," it really brought, it made me feel more comfortable. And I'll also say, if you're getting on there, people are mean on the internet, and especially with real estate, everyone hates realtors nowadays. And there's always going to be someone that has something to say, and you have to be able to brush it off and say, this person doesn't know me, they have nothing better to do with their time. And you just keep going, and you keep doing it for the one comment, the one person that you get that actually is watching and who is, it's making a positive impact for.
That's a very, very good point. There's a lot of very mean people out there, a lot of inconsiderate people out there. I've had the craziest comments come across my plate. And I would say to the same thing where you said earlier, going through and answering comments and stuff. I personally, those comments I don't even acknowledge. Like, it's just it starts to open up a rabbit hole, a can of worms online. People are keyboard ninjas. They're already incredibly rude and mean. And so to, go back and try to rebuttal that publicly, it never serves well. So I just stay away from that stuff.
No, and it is hard. It's hard when you
Of
start to be able
course.
to brush it off, but people will say the meanest things. I had people tell me that my voice was infuriating.
I had somebody tell me my head was too big. It's like doing a
It's like
green screen. They're like, "Move your big head." I'm like,
yeah, people don't care, and because it's anonymous, they can say whatever they want. So,
yeah,
you just have to learn, like, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You're doing what you're doing and it's going to work, and you just have to stay consistent. So,
love that.
yeah.
So you've done everything you had to do in a day. You've had a great day out there. Whether you produce your content, but you're running a good, successful business now, and congratulations to you for the growth.
Thank you.
Um, at the end of the day, when you're done your day, how do you know for you that it's been a successful day for you?
That's tricky because since I was a kid, I've had problems with ADHD, and, I always had a hard time getting everything done. So I've learned that as long as I get the important things done, or I've at least made progress and I've taken steps in the right direction, it's been a successful day. because
Cool.
everyone has rough days. You're not always able to get everything done. And in real estate, sometimes you get a call and it derails your entire day. So as long as you are doing everything you can to stay consistent and to stay productive, then I think at the end of the day, it's all good.
Very cool. See, once again, that answer does not include money. We ask that question all the time at the end of the show. And it's interesting, right? Because again, we all get up to make money, yet once again, the answer did not come back to money. So I find that unique. I find it interesting. I find it insightful for not just myself, but for everybody tuned in. And
Well, I
you
think, yeah, I mean, I think that what I've seen is people who get into real estate for the money don't succeed because it's all they think about. When I got my license, like I said, I didn't know anyone in real estate, so I had absolutely no idea what agents made. I had no clue what commission rates were. None of it. I had no idea. So I came into it completely blind, and I think because prioritizing money was never something that I did, it helped make me the person that I am. And, it was a lot more, it makes people feel more comfortable with you because it's not about, I treat everyone the same. It doesn't matter what your budget is. You are going to get my full attention and I'm going to do everything I can for you. So,
love that.
you got to do what you got to do.
Just before we sign off, and we've had some great stuff today. I mean, again, talking about how to do big things in video, or with video to grow your real estate business. And I mean, you've been incredibly down to earth, incredibly insightful. And I appreciate that. I know the audience does as well, because again, and for everybody tuned in, the conversation today was very bare bones. And I say that again, Anya, in a fantastic way, because what it does is empowers anybody to incorporate this into their business. And, we were tactical with it as well around how to come up with the content and what the production looks like. And it's not over the top. What is very important. We talked about consistency. We also mentioned about engaging with people and not just, somebody said it on a show recently to me, don't just be interesting, but be interested. Right. So you going through stories and sending flowers and just talking to people. These are the ways to make social media work. And as you said at some point during the show, it's incredibly important. It's so powerful. And I tell anybody, especially those of us introverted people, this is your coffee shop, but it's online, right? You don't even have to leave. Like it's no excuse, but again, acting with purpose is important. So any final words of wisdom from you just before we sign off that you want to give everybody to just help them get out there, build more mind share so that they can get more market share?
Two things. One is I don't think anyone should feel obligated or pressured to make video content because that's what everyone is doing. The same way I don't feel pressured to door knock or to cold call. If it is something that you feel can work for you and is worth a shot, then you got to do it. And if you do it, you have to go all in. But the other aspect is you have to be yourself and you can't try to be someone else. I've seen agents try to mimic what I've done and try to mimic content that I've put out, and it doesn't work for them because they're not being them. It works for me because I'm being myself 100%. Like I will film in a hoodie or in my pajamas, not wearing any makeup, because that's who I am. And so if you're trying to be someone you're not, people will see through it and you're going to end up with clients who do not fit your personality, but B, you're not going to have success. So you really have to be yourself.
Great message. Anya, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the MindShare podcast today, learning from you, speaking with you. Keep up the awesome work and listen, get back to those videos. Let's go.
I'm working on it.
All right, cool.
Next week.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you to that.
Please do.
Been great having you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, wicked content today. That was a great guest. I really enjoyed that conversation. As you all know, I love to put out a lot of video content. We've been doing that for a number of years here with MindShare, not just on the podcast, but across all of our different platforms. So I really resonate with what Anya has been saying, keeping it down to earth, keeping it real, and be yourself. Like love that message. Anyhow, you're either listening to this on one of your favorite podcast platforms, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. While you are there, download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so that you can build more mindshare and earn more market share. For all inquiries, just get in touch with us today. Of course, don't forget to leave a review of this podcast Again, whether you're on an iPhone, you're on an Android, go to ratethis.podcast.com/mindshare 101. It would mean a lot to us if you give us a big 5 stars. Let us know how much you love the show, how much you love the guests. Again, ratethis.podcast.com/mindshare 101. I also want to remind you, please don't forget to pledge me as a rider for the ORCF's motorcycle ride for charity as we look to raise awareness and money for shelter-related causes. Please go to realtorscareontario.ca and find my name to donate. Again, that's realtorscareontario.ca. Find me, David Greenspan, and any donation, big or small, certainly will go a very long way. Of course, connect with me on TikTok and Facebook at MindShare 101 and on my favorite, Instagram at David Greenspan 101. A huge thank you and shout out to our sponsors, Kids Keep in Touch Systems, REM Magazine, and ORCF, the Ontario Realtors Care Foundation. This has been another episode of the MindShare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.